Next on the news, pro-life organizations looking toward the next steps after that Supreme Court document was leaked about a potential Roe v. Wade ruling. Also,
when someone walks into our schools, our grammar schools, our high schools, they know it's a place of welcome.
A new superintendent announced for Catholic schools in Brooklyn and Queens. We'll hear what his plans are. And the Pope seen in a wheelchair for the first time in public. Plus,
I give because I didn't have, and so I give because I can now.
a baker makes a sweet donation to show her gratitude for teachers. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. Just days after that Supreme Court draft was leaked, pro-life groups are focusing on the future. Even though the opinion shows right now the majority of justices plan to vote in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade, pro-lifers say their work is far from done. Fences have gone up around the Supreme Court steps to protect the historic building during protests. As the marshal of the High Court begins an investigation to figure out who leaked that draft opinion on abortion.
When it comes to abortion,
Kristen Hawkins from the pro-life group Students for Life calls the leak an attempt to bully and pressure justices to change their vote on reversing Roe v. Wade. But she thinks that will backfire.
I actually think this act of desperation is going to further cement in the justices' minds that they are called to read what's in the Constitution.
And while pro-life groups are prayerful that the court will overturn Roe, which established a right to abortion 50 years ago, they say their work is not done, even if that happens, because it would be up to individual states to determine abortion's legality.
What we will have in a post-Roe America is a 50-state battle where we will work state by state to make abortion unthinkable and unavailable.
From college campuses to state legislatures, their work will continue on to not only change abortion law, but to change hearts and minds, which is exactly the mission of U.S. bishops. Archbishop William Lori, chairman of the USCCB's Committee on Pro-Life Activities, is urging the faithful to pray and reiterating a pledge bishops have made to redouble our efforts to accompany women and couples who are facing unexpected or difficult pregnancies and during the early years of parenthood, offering them love and compassionate care. The court's opinion is not expected to be published until late next month and could still change as draft opinions circulate and justices can change their minds. Pro-abortion vandals targeted a church in Colorado following the leak of that Supreme Court draft opinion. Boulder police say it happened at the Sacred Heart of Mary Church. There were spray-painted messages, defaced statues, and lots of broken glass. Parishioners were heartbroken.
We're disappointed that we can't have a peaceful conversation about such a hot topic, and instead people resort to violence. But we kind of understand, at least I do.
Police say they're still gathering and analyzing surveillance video and other evidence, but they have already identified some of the suspects. Schools in the Diocese of Brooklyn will soon have a new leader, and he's no stranger to the diocese or the classroom. In fact, Deacon Kevin McCormick has nearly 40 years experience, first as a teacher at Xaverian High School, then for the last 15 years, he was the principal there. Deacon McCormick joins us now. Hi, Deacon, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very excited.
So, Deacon, you're going from leading a high school to leading all of the Catholic academies in the diocese. So what's your priority?
Priority is to continue the good work that's already been done and to move forward with Bishop Brennan's agenda, and which is basically to bring the gospel to as many kids as we possibly can.
So enrollment increased in diocesan academies in 2021 and 2022. So what's your plan to keep that trend going?
We have to sell what we do, and what we do is we sell social capital, we sell strong communities based in the gospel, we sell ourselves as people where they can bring their children and they know they'll be respected and they'll be given a place to grow, to become the human beings we need to help build the kingdom.
Absolutely. So what would you say is the biggest strength of our Catholic schools, and where do they need help?
without a doubt, social capital. The fact is that when someone walks into our schools, our grammar schools, our high schools, they know it's a place of welcome. That when we do that, we're right on target of setting ourselves there. Now what we also do is now commit ourselves to finding the resources that are needed to bring us into the 21st and into the 22nd century. We need the alums of Catholic education to give back. The sisters and the brothers who were the foundation in 2 generations ago, they're long gone. And now we need to support the faculty and the staff and the administrators of our academies now so they can do that job and do it in a way that can allow them to be the best that they could be and see that they're respected and taken care of.
I want to talk a little bit about technology. Xaverian High School was one of the first schools in the country to bring iPads into the classroom. That was during your tenure. So why is technology so important for education today?
You know, if Maimonides went to a hospital today, he wouldn't recognize it at all. He'd have no clue what was going on. At the same time, if Aristotle came back and he walked into one of our schools, he would probably figure out in about 15 minutes that it's a school. The fact is that we need the foundation of education, but the way we do it now is radically different. That doesn't mean we lose the foundation, but it means that we embrace the new. We've been using iPads in our schools since 2011, and when the COVID hit, our kids never missed a beat. Our faculty was right there with them. We have to see technology as a tool, not as some kind of demagogue, but a tool that'll help our kids be able to encounter the world that they're going to inherit.
So important. Are there other programs at Xaverian that you'd like to bring and see throughout the diocese?
The thing with Xaverian, and it's true of any Catholic school, is that we remembered who we were. Strong Catholic foundation, rigorous academics, and a very respectful and predictable discipline. And when you put those 3 things together, and you put that with the whole Catholic identity of who we are, that's what makes Catholic schools terrific and the best bargain in the city.
Now, before you go, really quickly, what do you think of the man that you're replacing? Dr. Thomas Chadzuko is retiring after 19 years on the job.
Dr. Chadzuko is one of the finest educators I've ever known, and he is a good friend. He's someone who I'm going to have on my cell phone and probably talking to him several times a day. I am honored that I get to inherit what he has done, and I certainly will be standing on his broad shoulders as I continue my tenure.
All right, Deacon McCormick, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck on your new job that you begin on July 1st.
Thank you very much.
Following the announcement, the outgoing superintendent of schools for the diocese, Thomas Chadzuko, had this to say: leadership and progress never exist in isolation. I have been blessed with pastors, principals, and staff that share the faith and the mission of Catholic education. I am fortunate to be able to reflect on the many joys that this position has afforded me. The greatest joy is the knowledge that our work has impacted the lives of hundreds of thousands of students over the past 3 decades. I am honored to have been a piece of the puzzle that has shaped the next generation of the faithful. The Bishop of Brooklyn, Robert Brennan, praised Dr. Chadzuko for his service during the announcement, saying the schools and academies of the Diocese of Brooklyn have been blessed by the many years of steady, strong, and devoted leadership of our superintendent, Dr. Thomas Chadzuko. He truly has championed the growth of our schools and academies through teacher professional development, technology, and curriculum enhancements. Today, we see the success of Catholic schools throughout Brooklyn and Queens because of his work. I am confident Deacon Kevin McCormick will expand on that success, given his exemplary work leading Xaverian and his clear commitment to Catholic identity. Queens Parish has finished its first phase of recovery after rising waters from Tropical Storm Ida caused massive devastation. Last August, water surged into the lower church of St. Mary's Winfield, reaching more than 10 feet and causing hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage. Now, Pastor Father Chris O'Connor says the church is starting to get back up on its feet. Their confirmation classroom, which is also used for RCIA and baptism prep, is now done, and their first class is in the books. Also nearing the finish line, the new doors for the lower church. Half of the lovely glass doors with etchings based on the litany of the Blessed Virgin Mary have been installed. The rest will be installed next week. The federal jobs report for April is expected to confirm that job growth in the U.S. is slowing. Economists predict the report, which comes out Friday morning, will show that the economy added just under 400,000 jobs in April. That would be the slowest job growth in a year. The recent spike in inflation is also having a negative impact on hiring. It might be tougher if you're looking to make a big purchase after the Federal Reserve decided to increase interest rates to historic heights. Brian Todd reports.
Allison Braun, a first-time homebuyer in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, learned the hard way that with low inventory and high competition, those trying to purchase a home don't have much leverage these days.
To be quite honest, I did not expect it to be this difficult to get a home.
A pricey housing market could be about to get worse. Homeowners and prospective home buyers across America will likely find some tough sledding ahead because interest rate hikes mean it will be more expensive to borrow money. If you're trying to buy a home, experts say, the asking price may not be much higher than it is now, but
the cost to buy that house is going to be higher because mortgage rates are going up.
That means many new homeowners will not only be paying higher interest on their mortgages, but could also get less house for their money. What about renters?
Renters could be indirectly affected by interest rate hikes to the extent that, let's say, a landlord has to pay a higher rate on his mortgage if he has an adjustable rate mortgage or thought he or she could refinance and can't, for example. That could get passed along to renters.
But higher interest rates won't affect just homeowners. What about paying off your credit card, car loan, or student debt?
If you've got credit card debt, it's going to cost you more. If you're buying a car, it's going to cost you more because the rates of to borrow that money to get that car is going to go up.
Experts say there could be some good news for people who have significant money stashed in savings accounts. With the new interest rate hike, they say, those accounts will start to earn interest again. But analysts warn it may not be enough interest to make much of a difference.
You might see the interest that's being paid on a savings account go up a touch as a result of the announcement today. But remember, it still may be below the pace of inflation.
That was Brian Todd reporting, and analysts say people should hold off on purchasing a car or house for as long as possible to ride out the rate hikes. There's a lot more news headed your way. Heavy fighting rages on at a steel plant in Mariupol. Russian forces seek to finish off the city's last-ditch defense. And it was an emotional moment at the Vatican. The U.S. ambassador to the Holy See meets with a mother who gave birth in a bomb shelter. Plus, hope is on the horizon, how Christians in Iraq are returning home after the defeat of ISIS. A new wave of intense fighting unfolding at a steel mill in the besieged city of Mariupol. The Ukrainian military says Russian forces have been shelling the site nonstop as civilian evacuations are underway. Isabel Rosales has the latest.
In Mariupol's last line of defense, unrelenting Russian attacks. Fierce, bloody combat is how one Ukrainian commander is describing it. The bombardment on the Azovstal steel plant happening from land, sea, and air.
Russia is showing absolutely no respect whatsoever to their lives.
Still bracing in an underground bunker are hundreds of civilians. This video capturing the moment Ukrainian soldiers alongside them sing a Ukrainian patriotic anthem. A Ukrainian commander says Russia broke its pledge to allow a new round of evacuation corridors with its non-stop attacks.
Yet again, the Russians have broken their promise of truce and have made it impossible to evacuate civilians.
Holding the line. In the east, in the Luhansk and Donetsk regions, Ukrainian officials say Russia has had no success in breaking through the front lines. Take a look. A Russian missile strike caught on camera as it hits a bridge in central Ukraine. To the east, apartment buildings torn apart by another Russian missile strike. At least 25 civilians are hurt. And across the Atlantic, the White House is pushing back against a New York Times story claiming U.S. intelligence is helping Ukraine kill Russian officials. A National Security Council spokesperson denying that premise and calling the report misleading and irresponsible. In Washington, Isabel Rosales, Currents News.
Cardinal Timothy Dolan speaking about the Pope's growing rift with Moscow Patriarch Kirill over the war in Ukraine.
The Pope has always said, we pastors, we religious leaders need to be above this. We need to be like the prophets of the people of Israel and critique governments and call them to nobility and peace and justice and reconciliation.
His Eminence made the comments after returning from a trip to Ukraine and neighboring countries. Pope Francis has spoken out against Kirill for his support of Russia's war in Ukraine. Recently, the Holy Father warned Kirill not to be Vladimir Putin's altar boy. The U.S. ambassador to the Holy See met a Ukrainian mother and her baby who was born in a bomb shelter. Joe Donnelly says the parents left after the child had been born to come to Italy by bus. Donnelly called his meeting last month with Ukrainian families very emotional. He says much of his recent conversations with Pope Francis have been centered on the war in Ukraine. The Catholic Church is strongly criticizing a new report on the persecution of religious minorities. The report was adopted by the European Parliament on Tuesday. According to the Commission of the Bishops' Conferences of the European Union, it treated the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and the right to life as second-class rights. Other Christian leaders said all but one reference to Christians was deleted in the document. According to the papal charity Aid to the Church in Need, 340 million Christians suffer harassment or persecution around the world. That's 1 out of every 8. At least 75% of all religiously motivated violence and oppression is suffered by Christians. And between June of 2016 and 2018, grave violations of religious freedom took place in 38 countries. One country that has seen a lot of Christian persecution is Iraq. But following the military defeat of ISIS in the Nineveh Plains, Christians there began to hope again, returning to their homes and rebuilding their lives. Justin McClellan reports on a momentous milestone in their recovery from genocide, the opening of a long-awaited school.
They shout for joy, and not just for any reason. These Dominican sisters have inaugurated a new school in Iraq, in the Nineveh Plains. It is called the Al-Taira Secondary School and will hold 625 students. Most significantly, the school is not a reconstructed building, but a new project that has been able to move forward in an Iraq that is rebuilding itself after ISIS's departure. The project was made possible largely thanks to the work of Aid to the Church in Need, which helped gather more than 80% of the $2.1 million in needed funds. It did so through its benefactors and with help from the Austrian Bishops' Conference, supported by the Austrian government.
It has not been easy, and that is why I want to pay tribute, especially to Sister Clara, to make the dream come true.
Local civil and church officials were present at the school's inauguration, which had a great celebratory atmosphere. Of course, there was no lack of students around as well. Sister Nadzik says that bringing this project to fruition was an epic 5-year journey, but that it was all worth it in the end.
Everything was destroyed. So to build a new school in the midst of all this, it was very difficult.
Christians in Iraq, a minority group that has suffered heavy persecution, want to show that they are not only capable of reconstructing what they've lost, but that they can build new things, where before there was left only dust and ruins.
That was Justin McClellan reporting. The school is one of the biggest projects in Iraq supported by Aid to the Church in Need. And here are some more signs of faith growing in the Middle East. 126 boys and girls from 2 Iraqi cities receiving their first Holy Communion. A Chaldean priest from Mosul cheering at the site, saying the land that was attacked a few years ago by the militants of the Islamic State who wanted to eliminate Christians today rejoices aloud. Our faith and our cross have won. In March of 2021, Pope Francis ministered to the long-suffering Christians in Iraq. Some of the church's leading experts on Christian and Muslim relations said the historic trip left a lasting impact for the Christian population there. It was the first time they could hear and see the Pope And after years of devastation, the Holy Father brought a message of peace and fraternity. And 2 pro-Christian moves passed by the Iraqi parliament, one approved before his visit and the other after, are credited by some as a byproduct of the Pope's visit. Pope Francis was seen in a wheelchair for the first time in public on Thursday. The 85-year-old pontiff, who has been suffering from pain in his right knee for months, was wheeled into his meeting with nuns and religious superiors from around the world. This is the first time the Pope has used a wheelchair publicly, and comes just days after he told an Italian newspaper that he would undergo a small procedure for a torn ligament. Meanwhile, the Vatican is getting ready to welcome the latest recruits of the Swiss Guard, and this year there are 36 of them. As tradition dictates, the new recruits will be sworn in the San Damaso courtyard on May 6th in honor of the 147 soldiers who gave their life defending the Pope during the sack of Rome in 1527. And as it was during the pandemic, the ceremony will be scaled down with only family members and officials allowed to attend. Apart from new recruits, the world's smallest army is also getting new barracks. The renovation plans will provide single rooms with private bathrooms for the guardsmen, and officials say that could open the door for women to join the force. But until the Pope makes that decision, the Vatican will still need to demolish the current building for the renovations. Still to come on Currents News, a sweet treat for those who teach. The tasty idea an Arizona baker cooked up to give thanks. Plus, meet the new CGO of Gerber. That's right, CGO, Chief Growing Officer. What makes this adorable baby so special when we come back. Many of us have at least one teacher who made a difference in our lives. And in honor of Teacher Appreciation Week, one baker in Arizona is giving away more than 100,000 cupcakes to educators. Colleen Sikora is in Phoenix with the story.
If you could measure gratitude.
Really, I'm just playing with icing.
Quantify it. Then at Sugar and Lace Bakery in Phoenix, you'd have to measure by the dozen.
How many? 10 dozen.
Or by the cupcake.
My goal is only 100,000, and I say only, but I shouldn't put the word only and then 100,000 in the same sentence, but here we are.
Vanessa Stigman is actually baking 109,000 cupcakes this week for free.
I do what I do because I love teachers.
The cupcakes going to educators in the Valley in honor of Teacher Appreciation Week.
Your part is the hard part because they have to teach. You know what I mean?
She started it in 2018 when the Red for Ed movement came to Arizona. Each year giving away thousands, recognizing Arizona is consistently ranked among the last in the nation for teacher salaries.
They're so worth more than cupcakes, but that is literally all that I can give them because it's all I have.
Giving what she has because of what teachers gave her.
When I ran away from home, 2 teachers brought me in. They took me in off the streets.
So now,
yep, as fast as you make them.
She gives back.
I give because I didn't have, and so I give because I can now.
Like to teachers at Melissa Sparazza's school.
They pour so much into our kids, and she's doing this out of the kindness of her heart. It's awesome.
Not worrying about the cost.
That was Colleen Sikora reporting. Vanessa says this is the busiest week out of the month for her bakery, but despite that, she always enjoys baking for teachers. Finally, meet the adorable winner of Gerber's 12th annual photo search. Issa Slish is Gerber's 2022 spokesbaby and chief growing officer. She was born September 18th, 2021 in Oklahoma and is the first Gerber baby with a limb difference. Issa was born without part of her right leg. Her mom hopes her story will create greater inclusion for kids like her. The designation comes with $25,000 in cash, which the family says they will use for medical expenses. She is adorable. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.